everybody. Welcome back. I am so glad that we are here to continue our talks about going beyond money. And we are not stopping now. We want to talk about building generational wealth over these 2 days. And our next guest is here to talk about side hustling, side gigs, side businesses, all those other ways that we can earn more. Let me introduce Liz Enriquez. She's a personal finance mentor and advocate at Ambitious Adulting. Liz was born in Mexico and moved to Canada when she was 5 years old. Despite growing up in a low income household, just like me, dropping out of her math classes in high school and living with anxiety, she reached financial security in her 20s by saving aggressively, investing at a young age, and worked entry level jobs and many side gigs. Today, she is the founder of the highly successful personal finance blog, Ambitious Adulting. You need to check out that website and look into her services. And she's here to share a little bit about her journey and the art of the side hustle. So, welcome, Liz. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Leanne. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic because I love talking about money and how to make more money.
So, can you tell me a little bit about where you were at in life when you started your side gigs and started looking at building what was now Ambitious Adulting?
For sure. I was working as a data analyst for the provincial government. So I had a regular 9 to 5. I worked in government for 6 years and things were good, but I had this entry level job and I was getting by, but at the end of the month, I wasn't saving a lot. And I thought, okay, well, eventually I want to buy a house. Eventually I want to do this and that. And I had goals. And when I kind of broke down how long it was going to take me to maybe save for a down payment or, have substantial amount of money saved up, I'm like, oh man, it's going to take like 15, 20 years at this rate. And I knew then I had to increase my savings rate or increase my income. So I've always been a good saver and I never had credit card debt. I paid off my student loans before I graduated. So I definitely had a strong foundation because my parents, we didn't grow up with a lot of money. So they said, you have to save, 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 save. And that was always instilled on me. But there is a limit onto how much you can save. And so when I came to that realization, I started playing around with the idea of side hustling. And my first side hustle was as a social media manager. And people
Ooh.
always ask me, like, how did you get into that? You have like a
You're a
geography
data
degree.
analyst.
Yeah, I know. I was all over the place. I went to school for geography. I had never done marketing, but I was a typical millennial just online. And I saw what happened was I actually went to a restaurant and I tried to tag them in my own personal account. And they're like, oh, we don't have Instagram. It's too complicated. We don't have anyone on staff to do it. It's too much work. And I just kind of thought, like, I could do this. It's not that hard. Like, I just take pictures of food and post it. So that's how it started, really just by me thinking, like, that's really not that hard. I can do this for you. And I didn't charge a lot for my first clients. It was a few $100, but that's how I started. And that was over 5 years ago. And it's just kind of snowballed since then.
Amazing, amazing. What I like about what you said is you've always been a good saver, but sometimes the saving aggressively is not enough. You really need to earn more and to really dig out the skills that you had to earn more. That's amazing. So, how many, that was your first, but how many side hustles have you personally tried? And, is there some that have been easier than others and some that you would say, you know what, I'm not doing that again?
Yeah, I mean, technically just two. I've started two brands. So Shoutouts Hamilton was social media management, and then Ambitious Adulting was financial coaching, personal finance consulting, and that kind of stuff. So what I'm doing now. But under Shoutouts Hamilton, it did encompass virtual assistant to a degree because I was working with businesses doing their social media, but then they had horrible websites. So I'm like, what's the point of me building up your social media account and building up your brand if I'm leading them to a horrible website where they don't even know how to check out? Or, yeah, they just had really bad systems and operations. And so building their brand and then sending them clients for them to just kind of fall flat, that's where I also realized there was a gap in businesses. So I started helping businesses doing that. That was probably the hardest because companies and brands expect quick results, especially like on a certain deadline. A lot of businesses also just want followers regardless of the quality of followers. And I'm like, okay, but like you want me to get you followers? That's easy. But I want to get you followers that are going to convert. So kind of just
Mhm.
explaining and managing expectations was kind of difficult sometimes. And the reason I transitioned out of Shoutouts Hamilton was because it was super demanding being online all the time, posting, just managing multiple social media accounts. I did that for about 4 years and then thought, okay, I'm good to transition now.
So how much time was that taking up? So at the time, did you still have your full-time job and then you were doing this as a on the side?
Yeah, I had a full-time job. I did social media management on the side, and then towards the end of that, I started my second side hustle, ambitious adulting. So I was doing all three for about 3 or 4 months before I quit my full-time job and did ambitious adulting full time. But the good thing about social media management was that I was making everything in bulk on the weekends and scheduling it on scheduling platforms, and then just a little bit of maintenance during the day because I was busy at work, so I couldn't really do that. And all my clients knew I had a full time job, so if they ever wanted meetings or if they ever wanted to talk, I just said, send me an email, or if you really need to meet, just call me in the evenings. So you just set those expectations if you're working with clients as a side hustle.
Okay. Okay. So you said in there you decided to not drop one of your side hustles, but actually drop your full-time job. Can you walk me through how you decided to do that and what kind of numbers did you weigh, in order to make that actually happen?
Yeah, it was a stressful decision for sure. So I quit my full-time job in September 2018. And that was after like 6 months of really heavily considering it and thinking about it every day. And so I had kind of planted that seed 6 months ago. And I said to myself, okay, I need to have clients, which I did. And I also saved a full year's salary because for some reason I thought, okay, if this fails, I need to be able to support myself through an emergency fund. Luckily, it didn't fail. And so I used that for a down payment for another property. So it kind of all worked out. But yeah, I weighed those numbers. I know people just quit and hope everything's going to pan out. That's just not my personality. I had to make sure I had clients lined up. I had to make sure I had an emergency fund. I had my whole website and back end done so that I was ready to, go full force when I made that decision to quit.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So in that emergency fund, big advocate for that. It's part of self-help, self-care, making sure that you can address life's unexpected things. You said you had a whole year's salary. Is that gross salary? Is that living expenses? What was your thinking behind a whole entire year?
I think it was too much to save, but I had so much anxiety leaving a stable job, leaving paid benefits, vacation pay, all that. I was just too stressed, and the only way that I was able to make that leap was to save. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit more than my expenses. So it was gross salary, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, like, if just to break that down, if someone was making 65,000 a year, you saved a full 65,000 in that example, as to maybe you only need 5,000 a month to live, so you might have saved, well, in that case, maybe 60,000. So not necessarily the whole 5,000, the whole 65,000. But
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So that's that
So
that security blanket that you can make changes if you need to. So this has obviously been really, really impactful for you. It's changed your life. What do you think holds other people back from starting a side hustle?
So many things because I run side hustle accelerators to help people launch their side hustle sometimes, and I hear all the time people don't think they're smart enough, they don't have any skills, which is not true. You have skills, you might not have them on paper, nothing I do, is on paper, but I have those skills, and people are scared that it's going to fail. They're scared that no one's going to want to work with them. They're not going to be able to find clients. So really, it's just so much fear, and that's what's holding most people back. It's not the lack of skill or talent. It's really the lack of confidence in their own abilities.
So how do you help them get over that, and really kind of start to earn more, think about ways where they can, build that wealth outside of their 9 to 5.
I really encourage people to be their own cheerleaders. Like, they make little brag books of all the amazing things that they've done, all of the skills that they have. And also, I really hone in on the fact that starting a side hustle or any business is about solving problems or helping somebody else with their problem. So, making a list of, okay, what problems can I help solve? When I was a social media manager, the problem was small business owners didn't have time, energy, or skills to run their own social media accounts. I helped fill that void and solve that problem for them by offering them social media management. Every business operates like that. So we really go into all of that and just encourage people, like, you're a smart, capable, strong, intelligent person. You can run a side hustle if you want. And the best thing about side hustles is that you have a full-time job as your security net. So if it doesn't work, and hopefully it does, but if it doesn't, what's going to happen? You end up at your full-time job, which is what you're doing anyways. So the worst case scenario is not that bad.
Do you think all people have side hustles in order to eventually leave them and go full time? Or, I'm just wondering, in your experience, what have you seen?
No, some people can successfully manage side hustle on the side for a long time, but it really depends on if that's what you want. If you're happy with the stability of a full-time job, which is a huge benefit, and especially for your mental health, just to have, like, okay, I know that I have income coming in, and you're satisfied and happy doing it on something on the side that makes you excited, then great. But for me, my full-time job was draining me. And so I made that decision for myself that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So, I'm sure a lot of people are sitting there in the audience, they're typing away, they want to start a side hustle. Can you give them some other ideas, for what ideas they can use to start a side hustle?
Yeah, I mean, write down what you're good at. So it's difficult because sometimes people say, "Oh, what side hustle should I do?" I'm like, "I don't know anything about you. Do you like being online? Do you like working with people? Do you like working with pets? How much do you want to make? Is your side hustle for fun? Is it because you have a savings goal that, you need to be aggressive with?" So what do you want and what do you like? Because if somebody told me, like, you should walk dogs in the neighborhood because it's super easy and you make money, I'm like, yo, I'm scared of dogs. Like, I don't even like walking near dogs, so that's a horrible idea. But maybe somebody's listening and they're like, I love dogs and I go on walks every day anyway, so maybe this is something I could look into. So really, it starts with, what do you like?
What do you like? Okay, that's really good advice, because if you're going to be spending what, your 9 to 5 working, and now you're 5 to 9 doing a side hustle, it has to be something that you're really going to enjoy doing.
Yeah, you also
So
know.
yeah, yeah. So, I think a lot of us have learned the hard way that sometimes doing the side hustle is a part of this greater hustle culture. And being a part of this greater hustle culture, where unfortunately sometimes our 9 to 5s do not give us enough to live a healthy life, that we have to do a side gig, and I'm just wondering, as side hustlers and really looking to earn more outside of our 9 to 5, what can we do to prioritize our well-being and not suffer the dreaded burnout?
Yeah, that's definitely an area I went wrong early on because I was getting sick often, getting colds, my immunity was horrible, I was eating horribly. So I was definitely part of this unhealthy hustle culture, and I learned kind of 3 or 4 years into it how to set boundaries and have a balance. So boundaries to me included intake calls because I was spending way too much time, actually wasting too much time with potential clients that were not a good fit for me. I wasn't a good fit for them. I would spend 20 minutes, half an hour just talking about their needs. And I'm like, I know off the bat this isn't going anywhere. So why am I wasting this time? Sometimes I would drive out to a meeting knowing that I didn't really want to work with them. So really just figure out, okay, who do I want to work with? And honestly, it's going to just protect your time and energy instead of wasting a lot of time on things that aren't going to go anywhere. And I stopped working on weekends. So, those are a few of my boundaries. I also stopped working um, when my son was born on evenings so that I can be with him more and my partner. So, anyways, everyone's life situation is going to be different, but yeah, set those boundaries um, and protect your mental health, your physical health, your energy, and your time.
Wow. Okay. So you have a newborn. You have a child, and you're still, well, you're not side hustling now. You've pivoted your side hustle to a full time. What has that experience been like? As a 9 to 5er with a new baby, we have benefits. What has it been like being an entrepreneur and, pivoting some of your side hustles with being a new mother?
Yeah, I have so much, I have complex feelings about kind of maternity leave as an entrepreneur because I have so many benefits, being my own boss, but I don't get EI and I don't get this maternity leave. People are like, "Oh, how long are you off for?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm still kind of working because I'm working 5 to 10 hours a week, so it's still minimal. Um, but it's a challenge because some days are a total write off and I'll just cancel. I try to only do meetings twice a week or calls, and sometimes even that's too much. I'm like, so I didn't sleep, my kid is teething, I don't have childcare, and I'm going to cancel everything. So it's a challenge, but I'm very happy that I had an established business and brand before I got pregnant and before I had a kid because I'm not doing all of that back end of building up a brand and building up my website and connecting all my payment accounts. Everything's already set up and automated. And now it's more one on one relationships. And luckily, people are very understanding when I'm like, my kid is screaming and I can't hop on a call right now. And I think the pandemic actually helped people be more understanding because people are working from home, their dogs are barking in the background, their kids are online schooling. And so to me, it just seems like people are just a little bit more understanding, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Amazing. Amazing. So I want to go back a little bit where you talked about how you really have to find what you really want to do. And in there, I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, you got to learn how to say no, and not only learning how to say no, learning how to say no earlier on in the process. So you said you had gone to all these different ones before when you really didn't want to work with these people. How did you evolve? How did that evolve in your business? And what advice would you give to especially women out there who know what they want to do, but they have a hard time focusing on that one thing that they really want to do?
I go back to kind of making lists. So write down who is your ideal client and who is not your ideal client. And I was having meetings with people and like I remember one guy wanted help marketing his tractor, like for farmers and manufacturing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can market this tractor. And I'm like, what do I know about tractors? Like, I don't know anything, and I don't know anything about this industry. So now I'm spending time learning about tractors, learning about this farm industry. Like, what the heck is going on? And we had multiple meetings trying to come up with like creative marketing strategies. I'm like, this is not interesting at all. So definitely write down who would you like to work with, and if you have experience working with people before, this is you can write down, okay, this was my ideal client. And I do that now when I have like an amazing client experience or customer experience. I'm like, what was so good about this person? What did I like about working with them? And I'll kind of make a model client avatar based on those people. And the same with people I didn't like working with, and I've changed my policies because I've learned and evolved. For example, I had this one guy who was in the trades. He would book calls with me, and then some emergency would always come up. He missed like 5 calls. And I'm like, I do not want to work with people who aren't punctual. And so now I changed my policies to have a cancellation policy to say, if you don't make a call, you can't rebook it within, an hour. If you didn't let me know within an hour, I'm not going to rebook it. So these are some of the learning experiences that I've had to painfully learn. But hopefully, you're listening to this now and realize, understand who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with early on. And that's going to save you so much time and energy.
Okay. So how do you go about attracting that one? Like, tell me a little bit of how you got started, and did you advertise on Instagram? Did you go around knocking door to door? I'm very curious.
Well, for Shoutouts Hamilton, so for marketing, I approached my first big client. Well, no, the first client I got that I charged $200 a month for, which was my learning experience. I call that my internship. I posted on my Facebook that I wanted to run social media accounts and if anybody knew any small businesses to let me know. And it was like crickets. But then a few days later, my friend's like, "Oh, I'm working on a marketing campaign, but this restaurant doesn't have a social media manager and they've already sponsored, X, Y, and Z, but that includes them having to have a social media account." And I was like, "Oh, I can do that." So that was my first client. Once I learned, how to use um, automation tools, graphic design tools, and just the basics, I felt a little more confident and I approached my next client. From that client, was word of mouth. So she got me like 3 more clients. And so for marketing, ironically, on social media marketing, I didn't really do social media marketing. It was more of that old school um, one-on-one connections in person to get clients. But for ambitious adulting, almost 100% of my business comes from Instagram and social media marketing. And this is another really important lesson for people. Everything that I do in my current business is because I spent the last 3 or 4 years running social media accounts for other businesses. So I learned what works. And these were the transferable skills. Even though I don't run accounts for businesses anymore, I do the best I can on mine because I learned what works and what doesn't for theirs.
Hmm. Very, yeah, very impactful. Take all the skills that you learn and translate them elsewhere. I mean, my background is as an accountant, so I do books for folks. I help them build wealth. I help them think about their finances, and then you do it for yourself too, the way you run your business as well. So all these side hustles, earning more. What was the purpose? Why did you really want to grow wealth? Can you talk to me a little bit about why this is very purposeful and personal for you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people, and all I ever wanted was to have my own space. And I could not wait to buy my own house. Um, and that's just all, that was the initial goal. I'm like, I can't wait to move out. I can't wait to have my own room because I shared a room with 3 brothers. I'm like, I can't wait and can't wait. And so that was my initial drive. And so I was able to buy my first house when I was 24. And it was so addictive, just being independent, buying my own stuff. And, as I started investing, it was addictive seeing my money grow. So that was really the driving force was my own financial independence and it can only go up from there.
Wow, wow. So you started with the need to get your own space, own your own space, and that got you addicted to just even more. And you said you transitioned into investing. How did that start? Like, where did you
Oh, it's
start?
been a whole been a whole journey as it is. And the investing journey, that's another thing people are scared of investing. And I'm like, listen, I was investing the wrong way for 6 years. So I started investing when I was 18. My dad said, you need to invest. It's important. You gotta take care of yourself. So we went to the bank. We opened up my TFSA. I started with, I don't know, $100 here, $500 there, like not a lot. I was 18. I just stuck my money in a mutual fund that someone at the bank told me would make me rich. That did not happen. I made a little bit of money because I started investing in 2009, and that was, right after the 2008
Wow.
housing market crisis. So things were good in the market and I got lucky in that way. But I don't think I made a lot of money. The thing that saved me in those 6 years where I was in the mutual fund was aggressively saving. So that's the reason I was able to have my down payment. Once I cleared out my TFSA because I took the money out for my down payment, I said, Liz, you barely made any money in those 6 years. You got to figure out what was happening there. So that's when I dove deep into learning about investing. I listened to personal finance podcasts. I read blogs. I went online. I learned about index funds. I learned about picking my own stocks. I learned about portfolios. So how much should I have in bonds? How much should I have in equities? And realized I want a really aggressive portfolio because I'm young. So that's when I really started learning was when I was starting from scratch.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, very cool. And that's what you work with your clients today at Ambitious Adulting. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do there and why we all need to connect with you?
Well, I just teach the basics of personal finances and really specifically the basics of investing. So I don't manage anyone's monies. I don't tell anyone what to invest in, but I teach you what the S&P 500 is. I teach you what an index fund is. And we can do that one-on-one or we could do that through group coaching because once you kind of realize the basics, investing doesn't seem that hard. I think a lot of times people think they need to sit in front of multiple screens and read candlesticks on the screen to see, okay, what's this green? What's this red? What are all these numbers? I got to do some crazy math analysis. No. If you're starting off, there's all-in-one funds. There's robo-advisors. There's, blue chip stocks that are considered pretty safe. It's not as complicated as it seems, and that's what I help people realize.
Okay. So, what are some of the common questions that people ask you that your business, your service really helps them? I'd love for like a lot of the people listening in and commenting to check out your site. What can they do to connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, if you want to learn the basics of investing so you're not scared and you feel more confident managing your money, I have an investing boot camp, which is an online course. Also, if you wanted to start a side hustle, I have a side hustle accelerator, which teaches you how to find a side hustle you're going to be good at and market it so that you can get clients. So really, that's where I love to specialize is side hustling and investing. And this goes back to the point about finding the kind of clients that you want to work with. I was really bad at debt repayment strategies because I never had to be creative with debt repayment strategies in my own life. So people were coming to me and they're like, should I roll over this credit card and then do a line of credit and then file for a consumer proposal? That's not where I specialized on. So I realized, girl, focus on what you're good at. I'm good at investing and I'm good at side hustling. So that's where I spend my energy.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Like this conversation has been so amazing. I know a lot of people have you've given a lot of people inspiration into starting a side hustle and earning more. Yes, saving aggressively is the basics, but I really do think it's important that we grow that top line and earn more. And I really appreciate the insight that you've given this audience on starting a side hustle and building generational wealth. So thank you so much. All those, put your comments in the chat if you'd like to hear more, and continue to just enjoy the rest of the Beyond Money Summit. And we can continue this conversation here or online at wealthnouveau.com.